So it's the beginning of 2025, and you know what that means? New Year's resolutions, everybody's showing up in the gym. And so what I wanted to do is do a little video on the 5 unwritten rules that every beginner should know. Why? Because I saw a huge mistake that happened today, and it prompted me to write these couple things down because when you're going to the gym, like, you don't necessarily know all the unwritten rules, like especially if you haven't been very often. So I want to create this video to kind of avoid any conflict or weird vibes around you between you and the other gym rats. So let's go over them right now. So number one, I would probably say this is the biggest one, is do not text or talk to other people when you're on the equipment, especially the equipment that is like in high demand. Like especially like in my gym, it's the leg extension or the leg curl. There's only like two Smith machines, so like you don't want to just chill on that. Squat racks are something that go very quickly as well. So don't just like chill and text on the phone when you're in between sets. Because why? Because a lot of people do like supersets, right? Where they want to like get in a set and then go to another machine. So they just want to get in quick, grab the little set, and then move on to another machine. So do not do this. Like get off your machine. If you are on a high demand machine, like get off your machine. If you want to text, that's good. But then allow somebody to work in with you, right? And they might come up to you and ask you, which I'll go down. It's actually on my other points of how to ask, how to work in. Um, Number two is, like I just said, always ask before working in. Like if somebody just like goes off the machine and you just straight jet onto it and start banging out some bicep curls or doing the leg extensions, that's kind of rude, right? So just kind of go in, and if you want to use the machine, just be like, hey, do you mind if I work in with you? Or hey, how many sets do you have left? Those are two very common things that I hear in the gym, and it's like, sometimes how many sets do you have left? You're like, oh, I don't really want to hear that. But like, hey, you mind if we're good? Absolutely, no problem. And then also while you're working in, change the weight if you need to. And then also remember which weight that other person is at so you can put the weight back and at least offer to like wipe down the equipment in between. You don't have to. Most people are like, no, don't worry about it. But at least like attempt that, right? Because like you're like exchanging sweat with other people. Usually I don't care, but if somebody's really sweaty, I'm like, yo, wipe that down. So that's number two. Just always ask before you're working in. Number three is to use the machines correctly. Now, this is kind of like an obvious one, but it's really not that obvious because if you see like the couple videos or the viral videos about people working out for, the beginning of the year, they have no idea how to use these machines. And it's really frustrating, especially when you're in a high demand machine and you're doing it incorrectly, right? So, like, let's just say, like, you're doing like bent over dumbbell rows on the squat rack, right? So that's a high demand thing. Like, so get off of the squat rack, do it somewhere else where you don't need the squat rack so other people can use it. You get what I mean? So it can get frustrating where it's like, bro, you're not even doing the right exercise for that area. Very frustrating, especially if it's a high demand machine. And the way you understand if it's a high demand machine is like if you go to use it, it's always used. That's a high demand machine. It's always different for every gym, depending on how many machines they have and how many people are there. So that's the third one. Number four is wipe your shiz down, especially if you sweat in it. And it's not a big deal if you're using something for a little bit, and like let's say you even have a hat on, so you don't like have the greasy head spot because you have a hat on, and you only use it for a little bit, you don't sweat, not that big of a deal. But if you're just like putting in the work, like it's your first time in the gym, you're a little heavier than other people, and you're sweating like bullets, then wipe it down. That's just like common knowledge. Like just use the wipes, wipe it down, takes 2 seconds, throw it away, no big deal. So definitely wipe it down if you're gonna sweat all over a machine. And number five, last but not least, put your equipment back neatly the way that you found it. Right? It's like, I mean, that's still self-explanatory, but it kind of goes both ways. Like if you're using a machine where you're doing bench, right? And you do a bench, you're doing like, 45s on each side and you're finished with it. Like put that away. But like let's say and put away in the right location. Don't just like put the weight and just like dangle it on the tube on like the rack basically. Put it back where it was. Like pretty self-explanatory. But then they kind of here this one gets kind of hairy when it comes to like let's say like leg press. Like people can leg press like 400 pounds like no problem, right? So like if you are doing leg press and you put like 5 plates on one side, you don't have to take all those plates off. You can leave 2 plates on each side because you kind of like make an inference like people may be able to push that weight, so you may not have to take all of the weight down, and that's kind of understandable. And like I said, guys, like I'm not, I've been going to the gym since I was like 15 years old. So these are things that I've learned over time. And it's like I said, not something that like people say, but it's like the same thing with surfing, right? Like when you're new to surfing, you don't know who has priority really. You're like, oh, well, it's just a wave. I'm going to go surf it, right? But it's the same thing with when you're in the gym, right? There's different unwritten rules. It doesn't say like a rule board. One of the things it does say is probably like wipe down equipment and put equipment back, right? That's probably the two things it says. But it doesn't talk about don't talk while you're on the equipment. You know, ask before you're working in, use machines correctly. Like that stuff doesn't. It's hard to just like put that on a rule board, right? It's just something you learn over time, and that's why I wanted to share with you guys because I saw this is like what made it worse is that I saw a dude doing the like incline press machine. And no joke, he was there for like 10 minutes because he was texting in between sets. He was talking to his trainer, his personal trainer, which should know the rules, the unwritten rules of the gym. Chatting with him. Even his trainer was on the phone. I no joke, right before, and I was trying to use it. And before he goes to leave, homeboy like picks his nose, then goes back on. I'm like, dude, like this guy checked all the boxes of not knowing what he's doing and he had a trainer there. Like that was pretty unique for me to see because usually trainers know what they're doing. I could just tell the trainer wasn't into it. He's working this guy out probably for one of the first times ever worked out. Wasn't into it. Probably had like 10 clients all day. He's like, you know what? Whatever. I'm just gonna ease through this one. And it showed. And it was a machine that I was trying to use. A little frustrating. I did some other stuff, but it inspired this post because there's so many people out there right now that I know that are getting into the gym like, hell yeah, go for it. And I'm just telling you these just 5 little tips so that it will prevent you from any uh, bad vibes from all the other people that are there. And so you can be on top of it. So you can just slide right in as a typical gym rat so that you can have fun, build some muscles, and get healthy. So thank you so much for being here. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, go ahead and write them down below. Or if you have any unwritten rules that you'd like to share, write them down below. We'd love to see them. Much love, and I'll see you tomorrow.